The American middle class is not merely declining, it is quietly deteriorating. Not abruptly, but gradually, almost imperceptibly. Once the economic lifeblood of the nation, it now struggles to breathe under suffocating debt, unaffordable housing, and a system that seems engineered to crush the very people who built its foundation. Families labor harder than ever before yet possess less security than at any point in modern history. Dreams of homeownership, savings, healthcare, and rest have drifted from expectations to fantasies. Every bill, every grocery trip, every medical visit drains hope. This isn't an accident. It's intentional. The middle class is no longer living the American dream. It is enduring the American illusion. Number 10. Housing. There was a time when owning a home represented the proud hallmark of the American middle class, a white picket fence, a backyard for children, and a key to long-term stability. Today, that vision has evaporated. Completely evaporated. In the 1970s, a typical home cost around 3 times the average household income. If you earned $12,000 a year, you could buy a solid home for about $36,000. Fast forward to today, and that ratio has ballooned to 10 times income. The median U.S. home now surpasses $420,000, while the median household income sits at $74,580. The mathematics are impossible. The American middle class has been priced out of the very neighborhoods it once built. In 1991, the average first-time homebuyer was 28 years old. Today, it's 38, an entire decade lost. 10 years of equity, stability, and family building gone. With every passing year, more Americans accept that they may never own a home. Instead, they are trapped renting from corporate landlords who now control thousands of single-family homes, converting shelter into a profit engine. BlackRock, Invitation. Homes and other institutional investors quietly purchase entire neighborhoods, often paying cash and outbidding working families, then hiking rents overnight. Even renting offers no safety. The average rent for a one-bedroom apartment in many U.S. cities now exceeds $2,000 per month. Families sign leases that swallow 40 to 50% of their take-home pay, leaving them one car repair or medical bill away from eviction. And for those clinging to the hope of buying, mortgage rates above 7%, coupled with soaring insurance and property taxes, make even modest homes unattainable. A 30-year mortgage at current rates means paying $900,000 over time for a $450,000 home. The American dream has transformed into a mirage, a cruel, shimmering illusion always just out of reach. The home that once symbolized security has become a monument to inequality, loss, and generational despair. Number 9. Food crisis. There was a time when a middle-class family could walk into a grocery store, fill a shopping cart, and still have money left for the weekend. Today, that simple act feels like a luxury. In a nation that labels itself the richest on earth, the middle class now struggles to afford food. Since 2019, grocery prices have surged over 25%, with essentials like eggs skyrocketing 70%, milk 30%, and meat and poultry more than 40%. The average U.S. household now spends $976 per month on groceries, compared to $650 just a few years ago. That's nearly $12,000 a year, for food that once cost half as much. Grocery aisles have become battlegrounds of inflation. A gallon of milk that used to be $2.50 now sits around $4.50. A carton of eggs once priced at $1.39 now sells for $4.99. Families are forced toward cheaper, ultra-processed options simply to fill their children's plates. This is no longer just a hunger issue, it's a health crisis. Obesity and diabetes rates soar while nutrition plummets because the only food most families can afford is unhealthy. Even fast food chains, once the affordable backup, now charge $12 to $15 per meal. A basic McDonald's combo, once the symbol of inexpensive American convenience, now costs nearly as much as a sit-down restaurant meal did 10 years ago. A family of 4 grabbing simple burgers and fries can easily spend $60 to $70. Meanwhile, corporations enjoy record profits. Food giants like Tyson, PepsiCo, and Kroger quietly raise prices far beyond operational costs, using inflation as camouflage to inflate margins. According to the USDA, food insecurity now affects 17 million households, the highest level since the Great Recession. This is not just an economic disaster. It is a moral failure. When teachers, nurses, and construction workers cannot afford dinner, the system is fundamentally broken. Families cut meals, skip fresh produce, and increasingly depend on credit cards to feed their children. The American dinner table, once the emotional center of the household, has become a place of silent fear. The middle class is not only losing wealth, it is losing the ability to eat. Number 8. A dependable car. For generations, the American car meant more than transportation. It symbolized independence, freedom, and stability. The open road, weekend escapes, and the daily commute to a dependable job were all part of the middle-class identity. But in 2025, that freedom carries a cost most Americans can no longer shoulder. The average new car payment has reached $748 a month, while used car payments average $555, nearly $9,000 a year just to commute. In many states, insurance premiums jumped 25 to 30% in a single year. Add $4 per gallon gasoline, maintenance, and taxes, and a reliable vehicle can easily drain $12,000 to $14,000 annually, more than rent in many smaller towns. Interest rates have devastated buyers. The average used car loan now exceeds 10% APR, with loan terms stretching to 84 months, 7 years of debt for a vehicle that depreciates the moment it's driven off the lot. Millions of Americans now owe more on their cars than the cars are worth. Auto loan delinquencies have soared to their highest levels since 2006, the same warning sign that preceded the financial crisis. Once, every middle-class home proudly had 2 cars in the driveway. Today, families are selling one just to stay afloat. Many now rely on a single aging vehicle, hoping it doesn't break down because one repair can wipe out their savings. A transmission failure is $3,000. New tires cost $1,200. Even an oil change has doubled in price. Meanwhile, the automotive industry reports record profits. Dealerships slap on market adjustment fees, charging thousands above sticker prices. Electric vehicles, once portrayed as the accessible future, are now luxury items, with average prices hovering around $60,000. The car that once represented freedom has become a financial trap. Americans now work simply to afford the vehicle that takes them to work. Every mile driven is a painful reminder that the middle class is breaking down, trapped in debt, crushed by rising costs, and running on borrowed time. The open road isn't open anymore. It's barricaded by price tags, interest rates, and endless payment plans. Number 7. Higher education without massive debt. College was once envisioned as the great equalizer, the bridge that carried middle-class families toward a more prosperous future. Instead, it has mutated into a financial trapdoor, one that swallows entire generations without mercy. In America today, earning a degree no longer opens doors, it shackles young people with lifelong chains of debt. The numbers are staggering. The average cost of completing a 4-year degree, factoring in tuition, housing, and mandatory fees, has exploded to $141,000 at public universities and over $223,000 at private institutions. Since the 1980s, tuition has surged by an unfathomable 1,200%, while wages for college graduates have barely budged. Student debt has now swollen to more than $1.77 trillion, burdening over 43 million Americans. A typical graduate leaves college owing $37,338 in loans, translating into monthly payments of $400 to $600 for decades. Even those who play by the rules, study relentlessly, secure employment, and climb corporate ladders, find themselves shackled by interest rates that barely dent the principal. Loan forgiveness programs promise relief but rarely deliver it. Meanwhile, universities continue to hike costs far beyond inflation, ballooning administrative salaries while classrooms deteriorate and essential resources shrink. Parents take out Parent Plus loans to help their children, burying themselves in debt well into their 60s. Millennials and Gen Z delay marriage, homeownership, and even parenthood, not due to lack of desire, but because the financial start line of adulthood has been set impossibly far away. And what is the reward? A degree that often leads to jobs paying $45,000 to $55,000, barely enough to cover rent, insurance, groceries, and those relentless monthly payments. The promise of higher education has been hijacked by a system that thrives on desperation. The cruelest irony? In one of the wealthiest nations on earth, knowledge is no longer a right, it is a luxury. The American university, once heralded as a beacon of opportunity, now stands as a monument to economic inequality. A diploma used to symbolize freedom. Today, it serves as a receipt for financial captivity. Number 6. Entertainment collapse. Entertainment once formed the heartbeat of American culture, a ball game under stadium lights, a concert with friends, a simple night at the movies. Today, these experiences have transformed into privileges reserved for the fortunate few. The very activities that once unified communities now serve as reminders that joy itself carries an unaffordable price tag. A single movie ticket can cost $18. Add popcorn for $10 and a drink for $7, and a family of 4 can spend $70 to $80 simply to sit in silence for 2 hours. Concert tickets have reached outrageous heights. The average resale price for major artists surpasses $300, while iconic performers like Taylor Swift or Bad Bunny routinely exceed $1,000 to $2,000 per seat. Live music, once the soundtrack of youth, has been overtaken by bots, corporations, and dynamic pricing models that bleed fans dry. Even sports, the traditional pastime of the working class, are slipping out of reach. The average NFL ticket now costs $279, NBA closer to $150, and MLB around $95, all before parking, snacks, or drinks. Families who once bonded in the bleachers now watch from home, if they can even afford the streaming platforms that replaced cable. And speaking of streaming, what was supposed to be a cheaper, more accessible solution has become yet another financial trap. Subscriptions that once cost $9.99 now sit at $19.99, and viewers need multiple subscriptions just to follow their favorite shows. The average household now spends $243 every month on digital entertainment, nearly $3,000 a year, double the cost from 2018. The middle class is no longer choosing between luxuries. It's choosing between survival and feeling alive. Art, laughter, music, and escape have been commodified into luxuries. When even joy becomes financially inaccessible, a society begins to lose its spirit. America isn't suffering from a lack of entertainment. It's suffering from exhaustion, priced out of its own happiness. Number 5. Quality childcare or preschool. The American middle class is collapsing under the crushing cost of childcare. Parents once worked to create a better life for their children. Now, they work simply to afford someone who will watch them while they work. It's a cycle that traps millions. The average cost of full-time childcare in the United States is $13,655 per child per year. For infants, that figure can exceed $20,000 in major metropolitan areas. Two working parents can easily spend $35,000 to $40,000 annually, more than college tuition in many states. Childcare costs have climbed over 400% in the last 3 decades, outpacing wage growth nearly fivefold. For many families, one parent, often the mother, leaves the workforce entirely. But this isn't a choice, it's financial triage. The loss of one income, combined with the cost of everything else rising, traps families in a no-win situation. Work and go broke, or stay home and fall behind. Childcare now consumes 16% of median family income, even though the U.S. government defines 7% as the threshold for affordability. Meanwhile, America stands alone among developed nations as the only one without universal early childhood education or federally subsidized childcare. In France, families pay around $200 a month for preschool. In Sweden, it's almost free. In the US, it costs as much as a mortgage. The ripple effects are devastating. Parents delay having children. Fertility rates plummet. Economic growth slows. Exhausted mothers and fathers lie awake at night, wondering how they will afford next month's tuition, next week's daycare, or next year's expenses. We call children the future, yet we price their care like a luxury commodity. America isn't becoming childless by choice, it's becoming childless by design. Number 4. Urban rent. In cities across America, the middle class isn't disappearing by choice, it's being systematically pushed out. Neighborhoods that once symbolized opportunity have transformed into impenetrable fortresses controlled by landlords, developers, and corporate investors. Median rent in the United States has climbed to $2,050, the highest in recorded history. In cities like Austin, Miami, and Nashville, one-bedroom apartments now cost between $2,400 and $3,200. In Los Angeles or New York, that number exceeds $3,800, and that's before utilities, parking, or added fees. Signing a lease can require $8,000 to $12,000 upfront in deposits and moving costs, more than many Americans save in an entire year. Over half of all renters now spend more than 30% of their income on housing, crossing the federal threshold of being cost-burdened. 1 in 4 spends half their paycheck just to remain sheltered. Corporate landlords like Invitation Homes and American Homes 4 Rent purchase entire neighborhoods at scale, then raise rents by 20% to 40% in a single year. The outcome is a modern form of quiet feudalism. Tenants work, pay, and struggle, while ownership consolidates upward. Commuters now drive 2 hours each way from the only areas they can afford, sacrificing time, health, and stability. Families split apart, moving in with relatives or doubling up in apartments built for one. Cities morph into luxury showcases for the wealthy and transient playgrounds for investors. Teachers, nurses, firefighters, and other essential workers can no longer afford to live in the communities they serve. The middle class isn't just priced out, it's being erased. The American city, once the engine of economic mobility, has devolved into a gated economy where rents never stop rising and the dream of stability fades with every lease renewal. Number 3. Family vacations. For generations, the family vacation was more than a brief respite. It was the reward for hard work, the 1 week a year when middle-class Americans could breathe, reconnect, and simply exist outside the grind. Today, that modest joy has quietly disappeared. For millions, taking time off has become a fantasy beyond reach. A family of 4 embarking on a modest domestic trip now faces expenses between $4,800 and $6,200. Airfare, lodging, car rental, food, and attractions combined. A week at Disney World? Nearly $8,000 to $10,000 once tickets, hotels, and meals are factored in. Even a simple road trip can reach $1,500 to $2,000 as gas, accommodations, and dining costs soar. The U.S. Travel Association reports that 63% of middle-income families canceled or shortened vacations over the past 2 years due to cost. Inflation has transformed what was once a modest family tradition into a financial ordeal. Airfare up 35%, hotels up 20%, rental cars up 50%. Everything costs more, except peace of mind. Parents watch summers come and go with exhaustion and guilt, telling their children, maybe next year, knowing full well that next year rarely arrives. Children grow up without memories of beaches, national parks, or road trips, the small, defining experiences of middle-class childhood. This loss extends beyond leisure. It is the erosion of connection. Time away once healed burnout and reinforced family bonds. Today, Americans work longer hours, take fewer vacations, and endure more stress and depression than ever before. The middle class is not only financially strained, it is emotionally exhausted. And the cruelest truth? Vacations are not a luxury, they are essential lifelines. They are reminders that life should be more than work and bills. When rest becomes unaffordable, society collapses under invisible fatigue. America has become a nation that never clocks out, and the cost is measured not in dollars, but in the slow death of joy. Number 2. Savings collapse and the death of retirement. The middle class once believed in tomorrow. You worked, you saved, you retired, and you finally exhaled. That expectation has crumbled. Today, the future is no longer imagined with sunsets and grandchildren. It is feared as decades of labor stretching until bodies fail. Nearly 60% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. Even households earning $100,000 annually struggle to save. The average American has less than $1,000 in savings, with no emergency fund to buffer unexpected crises. One blown tire, one medical emergency, one broken appliance can trigger financial ruin. Retirement is nearly a foreign concept. The median 401k balance for Americans aged 55 to 64 is $89,700, barely enough for 2 years of modest living. Experts suggest at least $1.2 million to retire comfortably, yet rent consumes 40% of income, and health insurance claims another 15%. Social Security, the final safety net, faces insolvency by 2034. Pensions have been replaced by volatile, self-funded accounts. The golden years have turned gray with anxiety. Americans over 65 are now the fastest growing segment of the workforce, not by choice, but necessity. Meanwhile, costs continue to explode. A single hospital stay can erase an entire retirement fund. Nursing homes average $18,000 per year. Assisted living, $64,000. People who contributed for 40 years end their lives buried in debt. The middle class has been misled into believing that financial struggle is a personal failing, when it is, in truth, systemic plunder. Wages stagnate as corporate profits soar. The promise of security has been replaced by survival. This is no longer retirement, it is economic exile. The future, once a source of hope, has become a source of fear. Number 1. Healthcare. There is no cruelty greater than forcing people to choose between health and survival. Yet that is the reality for the American middle class. Healthcare in the United States has ceased to serve its purpose of healing. It is now a profit engine. The average annual cost of employer-sponsored health insurance for a family is $22,463. Premiums have risen 63% since 2010, while wages have barely budged. Deductibles average $2,825. thousands out of pocket before insurance even begins to cover care. Prescription medications are astronomical. A single vial of insulin can cost $300 to $400 without coverage. An ambulance ride? $1,200. A hospital stay? $15,000 to $20,000 for a matter of days. Even with insurance, medical debt ruins lives. Over 100 million Americans carry medical debt, and 62% of bankruptcies are linked to healthcare costs. People skip appointments, ration medications, and delay surgeries because illness is unaffordable. Parents choose between antibiotics and groceries. Seniors split pills to stretch them across weeks. Meanwhile, hospitals post record profits. CEOs of major health insurers take home $15 to $50 million annually while patients drown in bills. The US spends $4.5 trillion annually on healthcare, more than any nation on Earth, yet ranks 37th in outcomes. The middle class pays more and receives less. Every injury or illness becomes a financial catastrophe. A broken bone can derail a family budget. A cancer diagnosis can obliterate decades of savings. The system that should protect life now imperils it. In America, falling sick is not only dangerous, it is unaffordable. Nothing exposes the middle-class collapse more brutally than healthcare. The truth is devastating. The system is not broken. It is operating precisely as designed, keeping ordinary people too sick, too frightened, and too financially constrained to resist.